Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is Explanation of Battle Through the Heavens episode number 132 based on novel. So let's start. That dragon's might grew stronger as Xiao Yang's feet gradually approached the large dragon. There was a vague trace of Xiao Yang's legs weakening where it seemed he was about to fall to his knees. Xiao Yang slightly knit his brows when he sensed this change. This 3000 burning flame was indeed strange. Could it be that it has always treated itself as an ancient void dragon? This thought flashed across Xiao Yang's heart as he quietly became cautious. From the looks of the aura on it, this 3000 burning flame was far from what the fallen heart flame could compare with. If he was careless, he might end up falling in the most unexpected place. At that time, it would be too late for him to feel regret. Xiao Yang finally arrived in front of the large dragon a moment later as the hot eyes from everyone looked on. His body was suspended by the head of the dragon. Looking from a distance, he was insignificant when compared to the enormous body of the 3000 burning flame. Upon encountering the 3000 burning flame at such close proximity, Xiao Yang truly sensed the deterrence that this large fellow emitted. If one were to talk about size, it was likely that Xiao Yang's height was similar to just the length of a dragon scale on its body. Xiao Yang stood in front of the enormous dragon head. Although this 3000 burning flame's eyes were tightly shut, Xiao Yang's heart felt a strange feeling. It appeared as though this large fellow in front of him was using a kind of ice-cold gaze to observe him. This kind of feeling caused Xiao Yang's hairs to stand. He hurriedly focused his mind. Xiao Yang, place your hand on the forehead of the 3000 burning flame. There is a dragon scale there covered by a purple-black flame. After which, insert your spiritual strength into it. If you are lucky, you might be able to subdue it. Qiu Ling's voice suddenly sounded behind Xiao Yang while he was quietly feeling surprised in his heart. Xiao Yang involuntarily let out a bitter smile when he heard Qiu Ling's instructions. How could it be so easy to subdue this 3000 burning flame? Although Xiao Yang thought this in his heart, Xiao Yang stepped forward as he was told. After which, he found the dragon scale that was his size. A flame was indeed burning over it. Xiao Yang's eyes swept over this dragon scale. He suddenly discovered that these dragon scales seemed to be covered with many spiderweb-like black lines. These black lines intertwined and formed numerous extremely mysterious symbols that tightly adhered to the dragon scale. It appeared just like an incomparably large black web that wrapped around the 3000 burning flame. This is a seal. The corner of Xiao Yang's eyes twitched when he saw these black symbols. His eyes swiftly slid to the other dragon scales and did indeed see some of the other dragon scales were covered with these kinds of symbols made up of black lines. Immediately, he came to a sudden understanding in his heart. These should be the seals that Shen Kongzi's trio had joined hands to place. What a powerful sealing strength. It is many times stronger than the fallen heart flame seal in the inner academy back then. Xiao Yang involuntarily felt speechless when he sensed the great strength of the seal. He did not dare to delay any longer. He took a step forward, and his hand gently touched the dragon scale the flame was lingering over. There was surprisingly not the least amount of warmth on his hand upon contact. Instead, there was a faint chill. However, Xiao Yang did not have any time to feel doubtful at this moment. His eyes were shut and the spiritual strength from between his brows carefully followed his arm and penetrated the dragon scale. The spiritual strength had just entered the dragon scale when Qiu Ling, Cao Ying, Old Mu Jiyu, and the others in the distance threw their gazes over. Bang! A slight sound was suddenly emitted when Xiao Yang inserted his spiritual strength into the dragon scale. Immediately, Xiao Yang's soul seemed to have been able to break through a layer as he appeared in a strange, empty place. Black-colored flames permeated this empty space. There was a miniature dragon in the center of the flames. However, at this moment, this small fire dragon was curled up with its eyes shut, appearing as though it was in slumber. When he saw this little fire dragon with its eyes shut, Xiao Yang was aware that this thing was the essence flame of the 3000 burning flame. Although Xiao Yang clearly understood that it was extremely difficult to obtain, this did not hinder the heated expression that appeared in Xiao Yang's eyes. The thing that he had dreamed of had finally appeared in front of him. Xiao Yang inhaled a deep breath. He suppressed the excitement within his heart. The trace of spiritual strength belonging to Xiao Yang was slowly scattered. After which, it flew toward the small fire dragon before lingering over its body in a gentle manner. The spiritual strength continuously emitted a warm, friendly message. Although this kind of method appeared quite childish from Xiao Yang's point of view, he really did not possess any other solution at this moment. After this friendly message was emitted for a moment, Xiao Yang was speechless to discover that there was not even a response. This kind of method really doesn't work. Xiao Yang helplessly shook his head in his heart. He was just about to withdraw his spiritual strength when he suddenly discovered that the small fire dragon, which had been keeping its eyes shut, suddenly opened them at this instant. Its eyes, which were filled with a purple-black flame, contained an icy chill as it stared at Xiao Yang's soul. All the pores on Xiao Yang's body opened at this moment. The skin on his head felt a little numb. This 3000 burning flames essence fire was really not slumbering. Foolish human. That fire dragon suddenly spat out some ice-cold human words while Xiao Yang's head stood erect. The voice was filled with ridicule. This 3000 burning flame is able to speak the human tongue. The corner of Xiao Yang's mouth immediately twitched when he heard its words. The fallen heart flame from back then had appeared quite extraordinary to him. It was unexpected that this 3000 burning flame was even greater. It had used the human language and even knew how to mock others. This, a demon would really form in anything that lived long enough. That, I have come here with the intention to rescue you and allow you to gain freedom. Xiao Yang felt that he was an extreme hypocrite when he uttered these words. He was so much of a hypocrite that even his hairs appeared to stand up even more. Get lost. The mocking expression within the eyes of the 3000 burning flame became even denser in the face of Xiao Yang's touching words. At this moment, it did not utter any other nonsense. 2 ice-cold words were emitted. Before Xiao Yang could say anything after the words sounded, the purple-black flame suddenly surged out of the body of the fire dragon. After which, it swept towards Xiao Yang in all directions. Xiao Yang's expression changed when he saw that this large fellow attacked as it pleased. He knew that he was definitely no match for the 3000 burning flame. Immediately, his wisp of spiritual strength began to hurriedly dodge and retreat. Kai. Xiao Yang withdrew very quickly, but the purple-black flame was even faster. After a mere flash, it had already caught up to Xiao Yang. With a sweep, it swallowed Xiao Yang's soul into the flame. After which, it was vaporized into nothing. Xiao Yang, who was touching that dragon scale with his hand in the star region, suddenly opened his eyes. He withdrew his hand as though he had been electrocuted. His heart felt a lingering fear as he quickly withdrew. This 3000 burning flame was a little too abnormally strong. It had vaporized his wisp of a soul. Xiao Yang ruthlessly cursed within his heart. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead before turning his eyes to Qiu Ling and the others. He spread his hands and said, I have failed. That fellow is too fierce. Disappointment flashed across Qiu Ling's eyes when he heard this. He nodded and sighed. In that case, the next person should step forward. Old Mu Jiyu swiftly stepped forward after Qiu Ling spoke. A chill flashed across Qiu Ling's eyes when he saw who moved. He strode forward and blocked him. Why? Does First Elder Qiu Ling not intend to allow me to give it Atri? Looks like this so-called qualification from the pill gathering entirely relies on the whims of the pill tower. Old Mu Jiyu narrowed his eyes and coldly laughed when he saw Qiu Ling move. Mu Jiyu, I advise you to not play any tricks. Otherwise, Qiu Ling's tone was cold when he spoke. If I am able to subdue the 3000 burning flame, it will also help your pill tower get rid of a great calamity, would it not? Old Mu Jiyu smiled. After which, he sidestepped Qiu Ling and slowly walked to the 3000 burning flame. The hand of Qiu Ling was slightly clenched. Immediately, his eyes slid to Xiao Yang, and he threw a look to Cao Ying's group, forcing them to pay more attention. After which, he turned around and followed beside old Mu Jiyu like a shadow. A majestic Do Qi lingered around him without any signs of being hidden. From the looks of it, Qiu Ling would immediately act should old Mu Jiyu make any unusual movements. The corner of old Mu Gu's mouth contained a cold smile in the face of being watched by Qiu Ling. His hand touched the dragon scale before he shut his eyes. When old Mu Jiyu shut his eyes, Xiao Yang, Cao Ying, and the others also gathered their Do Qi. If the former were to perform any tricks, it was likely that it would involve them. The expected unusual activity did not appear in front of everyone's cautious eyes. That old Mu Jiyu suddenly opened his eyes after shutting them for around 10 minutes. He immediately took 2 steps back. He slightly frowned as he cursed. Qiu Ling finally sighed in relief after seeing old Mu Jiyu also step back in failure and that the 3000 burning flame, which was in a slumber, did not show any unusual activity. After which he spoke in a deep voice, next. During the subsequent period of time, all the remaining people stepped forward one after another. However, everyone eventually returned after experiencing a miserable failure. Some of the weaker ones among them were even shaken to the point of spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood onto the dragon's head. Qiu Ling by the side quietly sighed when the final person returned empty-handed. His eyes displayed a disappointment that could not be hidden. Since no one can subdue it, let's return. Qiu Ling waved his hand and helplessly spoke. While Qiu Ling was waving his hand, Xiao Yang suddenly saw the corner of old Mu Gu's mouth slowly lift into a strange smile. His heart immediately tensed up. Qiu Ling, you will never be able to subdue the 3000 burning flame like this. Allow the old me to give you a good performance. This unusual laugh caused the expressions of everyone present to abruptly change. Qiu Ling's expression became gloomy when the strange laugh resounded over the region. He did not even pause for a moment as he waved his sleeves. A vast and mighty Do Qi pillar emitted a kai sound as it tore through space and rushed toward the spot where old Mu Jiyu was at. The vast and mighty Do Qi pillar did not strike old Migu. He flashed and withdrew in an extremely agile manner. After which, his hands suddenly formed numerous hand seals while he withdrew. Following the formation of these hand seals, Xiao Yang's group suddenly discovered the dragon seal on the 3000 burning flames' forehead suddenly echo and emit a slight energy fluctuation. This is bad. The hearts of Xiao Yang's group felt shock upon sensing this situation. Old Mu Jiyu, how dare you? Qiu Ling's expression also changed at this moment as he furiously cried out. There is nothing in this world that the old me does not dare do. Old Mu Jiyu let out a cold laugh in the face of Qiu Ling's cry. His rapidly changing hand seals suddenly stiffened while that strange smile on his face spread. Relax, the old me is only trying to help your pill tower resolve this trouble. Explode. A cold cry was suddenly emitted from old Mu Gu's mouth after he yelled out. Bang. The clear sound of an explosion suddenly materialized without any forewarning after old Mu Gu's cry sounded. The eyes of Xiao Yang's group immediately turned to the 3000 burning flame when this explosion sounded. After which, they saw a dragon scale on the forehead of the 3000 burning flame, not protected by any flames, explode at this moment. With the dragon scale bursting apart, Xiao Yang's group were shocked to discover that the large-sized dragon was slowly opening its tightly shut, huge dragon eyes. Clearly, some opening had appeared in the perfect seal at this moment. The 3000 burning flame has awoken. An exclamation sounded when everyone saw the large dragon gradually opening its dragon eyes. Immediately, it stirred a commotion. The large dragon slowly opened its eyes. A moment later, an ice-cold air surged out. This 3000 burning flame's eyes swept over Xiao Yang's group before it suddenly let out an earth-shaking dragon roar into the sky. Bang! The moment that dragon roar sounded, the purple-black flame on the body of the 3000 burning flame suddenly soared. It appeared just like the flame of blazing skies as it covered this empty space. The purple-black flame surged and an unusual luster erupted from the densely packed black symbols on the body of the 3000 burning flame. They appeared just like a web that had firmly entwined itself around the 3000 burning flame. Roar. The 3000 burning flame struggled with all its might. Its roar resonated throughout the star region. Purple-black flames wildly seared the symbols made of black lines. Moreover, there was a continuous cool star strength seeping into this empty space before pouring into the enormous body of the 3000 burning flame in an endless manner. Faced with this all-out retaliation from the 3000 burning flame after being quiet for such a long time, even the black symbols appeared to be humbled at this moment. Some symbols had become much dimmer as the purple-black flame wildly burned. Mu Jiyu, you are seeking death. The sudden awakening of the 3000 burning flame had also exceeded Qiu Ling's expectations. By the time he had recovered, his face had already been covered by a furious green expression. An angry roar carried an endless amount of fury and killing intent as it rushed toward old Mu Jiyu. Since your pill tower is unable to deal with this heavenly flame, what is the point of keeping it? Why don't you allow my Hall of Souls to help you enjoy it? Would that not be better? Old Mu Gu's expression slightly changed when Qiu Ling rushed over with killing intent covering his entire body. Soon after, old Mu Jiyu began to coldly laugh. Xiao Yang, all of you should break the jade beads and inform the association head. However, Qiu Ling still retained some reasoning despite his fury. He did not forget to cry out loud while he charged toward old Mu Jiyu. Xiao Yang, Cao Ying, and the rest hurriedly nodded upon hearing Qiu Ling's cry. They took out the information-transmitting jade beads from their storage rings. They were just about to shatter them when a sharp wind suddenly appeared. After which, the wind transformed into fine needles that trickily struck the jade beads. Due to this attack being too sudden, the jade beads in the hands of Cao Ying and the others shot out of their hands and flew into the distance. Xiao Yang let out a cold snort. Two of his fingers clamped down with lightning-like speed. After which, they steadily received those fine needles. The other hand of his shattered the jade bead. After which, he turned in the direction the wind had come from. The ones who had attacked were two competitors that had gotten into the top 10 spots. It is unexpected that there are still members of the Hall of Souls. Xiao Yang involuntarily let out a cold laugh upon seeing these two people. He had underestimated the strength of the Hall of Souls. There were others who had entered the top 10 other than old Mu Jiyu. The number of people who had qualified was comparable to that of the Pill Tower. So what if you have sent a message? The 3000 burning flame is struggling with all its might. The three great heads will definitely be unable to split their attention in order to maintain the seal of the star region. Moreover, Holy Pill City is extremely chaotic. The experts from the Pill Tower will not be able to free themselves. A middle-aged man with a shady face laughed. Looks like the Hall of Souls has meticulously planned its actions today. Xiao Yang narrowed his eyes. After hearing these words, it seemed that some experts from the Hall of Souls had stirred some trouble within Holy Pill City. This would delay quite a number of experts from the Pill Tower. The 3000 burning flame was the best thing to hold back the three great heads. In order to maintain this star region prison, they would definitely not be able to act as they pleased. Otherwise, if the star region were broken and this 3000 burning flame were to be let free, Holy Pill City would be destroyed by it. Xiao Yang, what should we do? Cao Ying and Dan Chen softly asked while standing behind Xiao Yang. At this moment, Qiu Ling and old Mu Jiyu were engaged in an intense battle. Their main pillar of support seemed to have become Xiao Yang. The expression of Song Qing became a little green when he saw this. However, after some hesitation, he could only unwillingly stand behind Xiao Yang. What else can we do? We are unable to intervene in those two places. Currently we can only watch and wait for reinforcements from the Pill Tower. Xiao Yang's expression was a little solemn as he replied. Cao Ying and Dan Chen widened their mouths when they heard this. They looked at each other and could only nod. The two battlegrounds in this region really did not have any room for them to intervene. While Xiao Yang was speaking, space itself had suddenly rippled. Wave after wave of a vast, mighty strength surged out. After which, it gathered on the 3,000 burning flame. Following the pouring in of this vast and mighty strength, the black line symbols began to emit a glow again. Clearly, the three great heads had intervened. Roar. Faced with the increase of the strength of the seal, the 3,000 burning flame fire dragon's eyes revealed a crimson color. Today was the best chance it had to escape captivity. Although it was unable to do anything against the three great heads of the Pill Tower, they were also unable to kill it. If it did not take the opportunity to flee today, it did not know just when it would have to wait for the next opportunity to appear. The seal of the three great heads during these years had caused it to suffer. A destructive aura suddenly spread out of its body while a bright redness rose within the dragon eyes of the 3,000 burning flame. The corner of Xiao Yang's eyes involuntarily twitched as he sensed this destructive aura. His extermination lotus flame also possessed this kind of feeling. It seemed that this 3,000 burning flame was playing with its life. Roar. A low, furious roar continued to reverberate over this empty space. The purple-black fire on the body of the 3,000 burning flame suddenly wiggled. After which, it swiftly agglomerated in front of everyone's stunned gazes. Within the short blink of an eye, a strange, black flame, that caused one's heart to tremble, suddenly appeared. Finally, the flame split apart, transforming into tiny black fires that landed on the enormous body of the 3,000 burning flame from all directions. The deep black flame dripped onto the body of the 3,000 burning flame. The black seals began to swiftly collapse. However, this tactic seemed to exhaust a great amount of energy because the glint within the eyes of the 3,000 burning flame fire dragon seemed to have become dimmer. You still only have these methods after all these years. Do you think that you can seal me for eternity with them? Although it greatly exhausted the strength of the 3,000 burning flame, there was an excitement forming within its eyes. It had thought of all sorts of ways to break this seal that had pestered it for many years. The body of the 3,000 burning flame continued to struggle. The black symbols swiftly scattered. Although the majestic energy that spread out was continuously being replenished, it seemed to be far from being able to catch up with the rate of damage. This is bad. The 3,000 burning flame is about to break the seal. Seeing the thinning black lines of the seal on the 3,000 burning flame, the expressions of Cao Ying, Dan Chen, and Song Qing became a little paler. Being members of the Pill Tower, they were clearly aware of just what kind of damage would be created once the 3,000 burning flame escaped. Compared to the pale expressions of these three, Xiao Yang did not reveal the slightest anxiety on his face. If the 3,000 burning flame were to really escape from its seal, the chances of him subduing it would increase. Doing this might pose some risk, but as the saying went, one could seek fortune from danger. Currently, he could not be bothered. Ha ha. Xian Kongzi, this time around, it is your turn to fail. That 3,000 burning flame suddenly raised its enormous dragon head just when Xiao Yang's eyes were flickering. A thunder-like laugh resounded over this empty space. Crack. The laugh had just sounded when the enormous body of the 3,000 burning flame violently rotated in the empty space. Immediately, a breaking sound suddenly appeared. Cao Ying's group involuntarily trembled upon hearing this breaking sound. The seal has failed. With the sound of a slight cracking sound, the star region became dead quiet. All activities came to a sudden halt at this instant. Immediately, old Mu Jiyu and First Elder Qiu Ling, who in an intense battle, hurriedly withdrew by over a dozen steps in unison. After which, they quickly turned to the 3,000 burning flame. Under the focus of everyone's eyes, the unusually large body of the giant fire dragon lingered in the sky. At this moment, the symbols made of black lines on the densely packed dragon scales had disappeared. Although the eyes of the 3,000 burning flame dragon had become slightly dimmer after breaking the seal, the fierce aura that emitted threads of annihilation caused those present to be afraid. Damn it! Qiu Ling's expression was green as he looked at the 3,000 burning flame that had escaped the seal. He let out a soft curse in the process since he knew that things had currently become a little troublesome. Who could stop the 3,000 burning flame that had escaped the seal other than the three great heads? Compared to the ugly expression of Qiu Ling, old Mu Jiyu had a face that was filled with excitement. His feet stepped forward as he laughed. Congratulations on having escaped. However, is it possible to carry out the things we discussed earlier? Relax, as long as you remain in my Hall of Souls for 1 year, we will definitely return your freedom. I dare to guarantee you on this point. Odal Mugu's tone treated the 3,000 burning flame as an extremely powerful expert. Of course, the 3,000 burning flame was an expert, possessing intelligence. This old fellow has performed a transaction with the 3,000 burning flame. The hearts of Xiao Yang's group tightened upon hearing the words of old Mu Jiyu. The gigantic dragon eyes of the 3,000 burning flame glanced at old Mu Jiyu in front of him. An extremely human-like cunningness flashed across them as a low, deep voice was emitted from its large mouth. There is naturally no problem with the matter that we discussed. However, I must tour this world first. After that, I will head to your whatever Hall of Souls. The corner of old Mugu's mouth twitched upon hearing its words. His smile was slowly withdrawn as he said, putting it this way, you intend to break your promise, you humans are all the same. You want me to trust you? Dream on. The 3,000 burning flame fire dragon's eyes revealed a chill. It had suffered great losses to the hands of humans. Although it did not know just what kind of powerful existence the Hall of Souls was, it was not a fool. It clearly understood that the other party merely wanted to obtain its essence flame. Old Mugu's expression had become completely gloomy. Although he had expected things to not would be smooth, he had not expected the 3,000 burning flame to take back its words this quickly. Xiao Yang by the side quietly sighed in relief when he heard the conversation between Old Mugu and the 3,000 burning flame. It seemed that both of them had malicious intent in their hearts despite their cooperation. Qiu Ling had also understood the situation. He hesitated for a moment before displaying an expression to Xiao Yang's group. The group slowly withdrew some distance. If Old Mugu and the 3,000 burning flame ended up fighting, it would naturally be best for them. With the strength of Old Mugu, he would definitely be no match for the 3,000 burning flame. After they were to have a vicious fight, it was likely that the trouble outside would be resolved. At that time, the experts from the Pill Tower would intervene and would definitely be able to take care of both Old Mugu and the 3,000 burning flame. Old Mugu slightly knit his eyebrows as Xiao Yang's group withdrew. He was aware of their intentions. However, this was not the time to think about such things. Although this 3,000 burning flame was strong, he needed to bring it back to the Hall of Souls today regardless of what happens. Since you do not want to do things nicely, you should not blame the old me for not acting righteous. The Pill Tower might not be able to deal with you, but my Hall of Souls will be able to let you know what is called a fate worse than death. Old Mugu gently spread his shriveled hand under his sleeves. His tone had also become exceptionally dense. A black figure tore through space just after Old Mugu's voice sounded. It carried a terrifyingly hot wind as it violently slammed toward his head. This sudden attack had startled Old Mugu. His body flashed and appeared over 100 feet away. After which, his eyes were dark and solemn as he looked at the 3,000 burning flame as it swung its enormous tail. His hand was clenched and a bright silver jade plate suddenly appeared in his hand. Subsequently, he shattered it. Following the shattering of the jade plate, an extremely powerful spatial strength suddenly surged out. It immediately tore a crack in the space beside Old Mugu. When the crack line formed, 3 human figures wrapped in black robes slowly walked out of the spatial crack. After these human figures walked out, 3 vast and mighty auras suddenly swept around this empty space like a storm. Even the 3,000 burning flame's large eyes revealed a seriousness in the face of this majestic storm. Honorable elders of the Hall of Souls, Xiao Yang's expression abruptly changed when these 3 mysterious black figures appeared. He had not expected Old Mugu to still possess such a trick. 4 dozens. Such a lineup was something that even some top-tier faction in the Central Plains did not possess. However, this Hall of Souls had taken them out so easily. At this moment, the terror of the Hall of Souls within Xiao Yang's heart once again rose another level. Spatial jade plate. The Hall of Souls is really well prepared for this 3,000 burning flame. Qiu Ling clenched his teeth as he spoke. His eyes were gloomy as he looked at the 3 figures that had walked out of the spatial crack. Xiao Yang's eyes blinked. The so-called spatial jade plate was likely the thing that Old Mugu had shattered earlier. However, he did not wish to think about this now. Old Mugu's side had gained the support of powerful reinforcements. It was likely that even the 3,000 burning flame would have difficulty fighting 4 elite dozens. Although the 3,000 burning flame had fought with the 3 great heads of the Pill Tower for many years, it did not mean that it truly possessed the ability to fight with the 3 great heads. After all, the 3 great heads had only intended to seal it from the beginning. Sealing it and killing it were 2 different matters. The 3,000 burning flame might be called an undying flame, but if the 3 great heads of the Pill Tower really wanted to finish it off, they were not without options. However, they did not wish to go to that extent. Each heavenly flame was considered an extremely rare thing to an alchemist. Moreover, these heavenly flames could only be formed after thousands or tens of thousands of years. It would really be a waste of precious things if they were randomly destroyed. Of course, the 3 great heads of the Pill Tower would rather spend a great amount of effort to build the star region and seal the 3,000 burning flame rather than destroy it, but the Hall of Souls was clearly not such nice people. They would definitely not leave what they could not obtain for others to enjoy. Mugu, your effectiveness in doing things is really poor. The 3 of us have waited for such a long time before receiving the summoning of your spiritual imprint. One of the 3 black figures that had stepped out of the spatial crack spoke in a hoarse voice. Do you really think that the Pill Tower is some ordinary people? Old Mugu frowned and coldly replied, there is no need for these unnecessary words. We do not have much time. Once the chaos in the outside world calms down, it is likely that the 3 great heads of the Pill Tower will hurry over. Just the 4 of us alone are no match for the 3 of them. Just make full use of the time. The Hall Chief views this plan with great importance. If anything goes wrong, all of us will suffer. Another black-clothed person faintly spoke. The remaining people became quiet upon hearing the words Hall Chief. Old Mugu's face also slightly twitched. His eyes revealed a terror. Let's act. Do as we have planned. As long as we obtain the essence flame of the 3,000 burning flame, our mission will be considered a success. Old Mugu inhaled a deep breath of air. His eyes were dark and dense as he glanced at the distant Xiao Yang. Old Mu Jiu felt an extremely dense killing intent for Xiao Yang in his heart. However, now was not the time for revenge. Hence, he could only forcefully suppress the killing intent in his heart. Form the formation and prevent the 3000 burning flame from absorbing the strength of the stars. Old Mu Jiu coldly cried out. His body took the lead to rush forward. Immediately, the three others also rushed in 3 different directions. After which, they surrounded the 3000 burning flame. 10,000 ghost-devouring spiritual formation, ice-cold cries were emitted from the mouths of the 4 of them. Soon after, a strange, black fog surged out of the bodies of these 4 people in all directions. After which, the fog swiftly spread. The interior of the black fog was filled with an unusually dark coldness. There was even a vague ear-piercing screech continuously being transmitted from the black fog. With the spread of this strange, black fog, the strength of the stars that had been seeping in was blocked. Damn humans! The 3000 burning flame roared furiously after sensing this change. It had just broken the seal. Naturally, it did not wish to return to a slumber in complete darkness. Its enormous mouth was widened and a purple-black flame appeared just like a fire pillar as it was spat out of its mouth. Space itself formed numerous distortions wherever the flame passed. Crash! The expression of Old Mu Jiu and the 3 others slightly sank in the face of the wild and uncontrolled retaliation by the 3000 burning flame. Old Mu Gu's hand seal changed with lightning-like speed. A dark, cold fog suddenly emitted waves of metallic sound. The black fog fluctuated as over 100 large, strong, black chains shot out of the black fog. They perforated the fire pillar that shot over. After which, they appeared just like numerous large pythons as they swept over from all directions. Finally, they transformed into a large web that covered the 3000 burning flame. Beast, there is a good path for you to walk, but you wish to take this path to your death. Today, the old me shall fulfill your wish. A ferocious expression flashed across the eyes of Old Mu Jiu as the chains erupted. A cold cry suddenly exploded from his mouth. 10,000 soul heavenly lock. After the cold cry of Old Mu Jiu sounded, countless numbers of dark black chains made from an unknown material rushed out of the black fog in all directions. After which, they crossed each other before ruthlessly restricting the large body of the 3000 burning flame. The chains shook and they firmly pestered the 3000 burning flame. Roar. The 3000 burning flame erupted into a furious roar after being sealed by these chains. Its large body wildly struggled. The purple-black flame continuously surged out of its body and burned the dark black chains. The purple-black flame lingered over the chains and many sharp, miserable cries were emitted. Waves of black fog continued to surge out of the chains as they went all out to block the burning flame. Under this all-out struggle by the 3000 burning flame, some dark black chains were broken. Black fog surged at the spot where the chains broke. Some vague, tiny, savage faces appeared in the fog, causing them to appear extremely strange. Old Mu Gu's expression changed slightly when he sensed the great pressure that had suddenly unfurled. He had indeed underestimated the 3000 burning flame's strength. However, he was also well prepared for their actions today. He immediately let out a cold snort as he sternly cried out, "Biting soul." The other 3 black-clothed individuals slightly nodded upon hearing his stern cry. Their hand seals changed. Murky, black fog suddenly poured out of their sleeves. Finally, it transformed into a countless number of souls with ferocious expressions that cried out in a miserable manner. After which, they collided against the enormous body of the 3000 burning flame from all directions. Bang! The ferocious souls, with black fog surrounding them, had just touched the body of the 3000 burning flame when they were burned by the purple-black flame into nothing. Even though they were burned up, their numbers were unusually terrifying. Tens of thousands of souls controlled by the black fog appeared just like moths pouncing into fire as they charged toward the 3000 burning flame with a suicidal craziness. Xiao Yang's expression was slightly ugly as he watched the screeching souls burn to nothing by the 3000 burning flame. These fellows from the Hall of Souls were extremely cruel and evil. They used souls as cannon fodder, a tragic method. These bastards. Qiu Ling's expression was green as he grit his teeth and cursed. Xiao Yang was quiet. Although this method of the Hall of Souls was cruel, it must be said that its effect was quite good. Dealing with the suicidal attack of the souls from all directions, the 3000 burning flame, which had exhausted a great amount of energy escaping the seal placed by the 3 great heads, purple-black flame gradually weakened on its body. Roar. The 3000 burning flame had clearly sensed the flame weakening. Immediately, a bright redness surged within its dragon eyes. A roar resounded over the empty space and its enormous body was just like a gyroscope as it began to wildly rotate. Immediately, 100-foot large firestorm was formed within this black fog. Crack, crack, crack. The purple-black flamestorm swept all around. The dark black chains that were pestering the 3000 burning flames all crumbled. A terrifyingly hot suction force surged out of the storm, wildly absorbing the black fog that permeated the air around it. After which, the lingering purple-black flame completely vaporized it into nothing. Bang! This intense retaliation by the 3000 burning flame also caused the expressions of Old Mu Gu's group to change. That terrifying heat was transmitted through the chains to their hands, forcing the 4 of them a couple of steps back. Only then did they stabilize their bodies. They raised their hands and discovered that their entire hand had been charred black. I have indeed underestimated this beast. Seeing that the combined effort of the four of them was still unable to seal this 3,000 burning flame, a grave expression flashed across the face of old Mu Ji-yu. Immediately, he inhaled a deep breath and a savage look flashed across his eyes. Sacrificial life soul lock. The remaining three black-clothed figures' hands became sluggish upon hearing old Mu Gu's cry. They looked at each other before looking at the terrifying suction force of the firestorm. They could only violently clench their teeth and change their hand seals as fast as lightning. Immediately, a stern cry was emitted from their mouths. Life soul lock, appear. Rumble. Their stern cries had just sounded when a wave of unusually clear, metallic sounds appeared. Xiao Yang's group was surprised to see 4 black fogs, 10 feet in size, suddenly erupt from old Mu Gu's 4-men group. Black fog dawdled as 4 dark black chains, 100 feet in size, appeared like 4 savage pythons. The dark black chains appeared extremely majestic. The surface of the chains were filled with strange seals. Countless faces, filled with mournful expressions, gathered on the chains. The moment the chain was unleashed, a terrifying, deafening cry continued to be emitted, causing Xiao Yang's group to slightly frown. Even the life soul lock has been formed. Looks like these fellows have also ended up in a battered state because of the 3,000 burning flame. A gloating smile flashed across Zhou Ling's face as he spoke after watching what was transpiring. What is this thing? Xiao Yang asked out of curiosity. The tactics of the Hall of Souls are extremely mysterious. I am not too certain about this so-called life soul lock. However, I do know that this is the final move of the Hall of Souls' honorable elders. The life soul lock is connected to their souls. If this thing is damaged, they end up facing extremely serious damage to their souls. Therefore, they will not take out the life soul lock unless they have no other choice. This thing might indeed be powerful, but the risk is too great. Zhou Ling glanced at the battleground before replying. Xiao Yang slightly nodded after hearing this. This Hall of Souls was indeed mysterious. It was actually able to practice such a strange thing. Form the life soul lock formation. A fierce glint flashed across old Mu Gu's eyes as he cried out loud when the life soul lock appeared. The cry had just sounded when 4 incredibly large, black chains immediately penetrated through the air while being accompanied by an earth-shakingly miserable screech. They appeared outside of the firestorm in a flash. After which, they emitted puff sounds as they shot into the firestorm. The enormous locks surged into the fire from one side and exited from another. After which, they found another direction to enter it. This continued for just a couple of times before the 4 enormous chains had firmly entangled the storm. The firestorm's wildly rotating speed was forcefully reduced because of the entanglement of the 4 enormous chains. Finally, it completely stopped. Roar. The storm halted and the 3,000 burning flame within it immediately appeared in the eyes of Xiao Yang's group. One could see that its large body had been penetrated by the 4 enormous chains. The chains passed through its body and meandered over it, trapping it. Seeing that old Mu Ji-yu had forced the 3,000 burning flame to such an extent, Xiao Yang involuntarily inhaled a breath of cool air. The combined strength of 4 dozens was indeed terrifying. Old Mu Ji-yu stared at the flame, which had gradually ceased struggling after being trapped by the chains. A strange smile involuntarily appeared on his face. His heart rejoiced a little. Fortunately, the 3,000 burning flame had been exhausted when it had tried to escape the seal of the 3 great heads. Otherwise, the 4 of them would have really found it difficult to completely subdue this untamable beast. All of you should lock it. I will take its essence flame. Excitement flashed across the eyes of old Mu Ji-yu as informed the other 3. When he looked at the 3,000 burning flame, it was struggling in a weak manner. Be quick. The life soul chain is barely able to trap it. We will not be able to endure for long, a black-clothed person replied in a deep voice. His tone revealed a frailness. The level of difficulty in dealing with the 3,000 burning flame was far beyond their expectations. Old Mu Ji-yu nodded. A deep blue flame surged out of his body. Finally, his body moved, and he arrived in front of the head of the 3,000 burning flame. He looked at the flame, who was struggling with all its strength. He involuntarily and ferociously laughed. You have refused to comply when asked nicely. This is your fate, beast. Do you regret it? Old Mu Ji-yu did not pause while he uttered these words. He appeared at the forehead of the 3,000 burning flame, where the broken dragon scale was. At that spot, there was a 5-foot black hole. The 3,000 burning flame's essence flame was hidden within it. Old Mu Gu's eyes looked at the black hole. The green in them became even richer. However, just as he was about to charge over, the 3,000 burning flame ceased its struggle. A fierce glint flashed across its enormous dragon eyes. When the 3,000 burning flame ceased struggling, an uneasiness rose within the heart of old Mu Ji-yu, but before he could ponder what it was doing, a small, purple-black dragon rushed out in a lightning-like manner. Along the way, the purple-black flame still felt suppressed like its body. Following this suppression, the purple-black flame swiftly rotated, transforming into a dark black color that chilled one's heart. A destructive aura was vaguely emitted from the little, dark black dragon's body. This beast is crazy. It dares to take its essence flame out by its own accord. Old Mu Gu's expression drastically changed upon witnessing this scene. Before he could recover, the dark black, little fire dragon had flashed in front of him. After which, it violently collided with his body. This collision, which did not appear to be fierce, caused old Mugu's face to turn pale. A mouthful of bright red fresh blood was spat out. His body also flew backwards after appearing to have suffered a serious blow. Grab it! Old Mugu wildly roared in a furious manner after being violently sent flying. A good opportunity. Xiao Yang's eyes had landed on the small, dark black dragon with lightning-like speed after old Mugu's roar had just sounded. A wild joy surged across his eyes. The 3,000 burning flame that he had dreamed of had finally appeared within his reach. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.